Hello, good afternoon. Okay, in today's lecture, we will continue the durability aspect of concrete. We will look at different deterioration mechanism affects the durability of concrete, right? So here I'm going to discuss the deterioration due to chemical reaction. So this chemical reaction is basically the reaction between alkalis that is present in your cement and then the reactive components in the aggregates. Right? Basically, this reaction is called as A or that is alkali aggregate reaction. Fine. This A varies depending on the component that is there in your aggregate. If your aggregate is based on silica base, then this reaction is called alkali silica reaction. And if it is based on carbonate, then it is called alkali carbonate reaction. So basically, the aggregates that is there in the concrete that reacts with the alkali present in your cement and leads to such deterioration. So let's look at the deterioration mechanism. You have sodium and potassium. Those are alkalis, hydroxides of sodium and potassium. Those are the alkalis present in the cement, and they are capable of reacting with the fine-grained porous silica aggregates, especially in the presence of water, right? So without, if you do not have water, or if the structure or if the concrete is not in contact with water, then this reaction will not take place. So this alkali silica reaction, or basically this alkali aggregate reaction to occur, you should have three components. One is alkali in your cement and reactive aggregates. So basically the reactive aggregates and water. So if any one is less, or if we do not have any one of these things, then this reaction will not take place. So most often your concrete will be subjected to water in some or other ways. So in that case, if you have reactive aggregate, of course your cement will have certain amount of alkalis. So that will react and that will lead to gel formation. So the product will be here, it's a silica gel, and that absorbs water and further expands. So when you have gel formation out of this reaction, that first tend to fill the pores, and then with further gel formation, that expansion, once the pores are filled with further formation of gel, so that is going to induce expansive stresses. So that will lead to further cracking. And eventually, if the cracks and then if this gel dehydrates, then you will not have any product filled in your crack, and that will leave your crack as open. So in such cases, that this open cracks will lead to other deterioration mechanisms. So other foreign elements can enter into your cement. So these are the general thing when you need to consider about alkali silica reaction. But this effectiveness of this reaction can be reduced when you have silica with high surface area, as in the case of silica fume, where you have large surface area. In that case, your amount of concentration of alkalis in your cement will be so the reactiveness, you will not have enough alkalis to react with all the silica that is available in the concrete. So in such cases, the product will be non-swelling gel. So if you have non-swelling gel, then you will not, the expansive stress will not be significant. So in that case, the damage will be less, or it will not be that significant comparing to the case that you have where the product silicate based swelling gel. Okay. So here in this case, you get this non-swelling gels. So in that case, the effect of damage will not be significant. So whereas if this is the case when you have silicate aggregate, so when your aggregate is based on silicate type. If your aggregate is based on carbonate, so that is if you have dolomitic limestone, then your aggregate will be based on this carbonate. So in that case, the reaction will lead to When that carbonate reacts with alkalis, then that will lead to loss of bond strength and micro cracking. So loss of bond strength means the aggregate will not stay with the cement. So the bonding between cement and aggregate will be affected in this case alkali carbonate reactions. Whereas when you have alkali silica reaction, there you get swelling gel. So because of that swelling gel, expansive stresses induces the cracking. So here you can see this alkali silicate reaction in detail. First, during the hydration process, you will experience certain amount of alkali ions getting released from the cement. So the increases the concentration of hydroxide ion in the pore solution. And the second stage, these things will react with the silicate based aggregates. So you have your alkalis here, sodium or potassium alkali, and then react with the silicon dioxide. You will get this swelling alkali silicate gel. Is the slide moving? Can you see the slide? Can you see the slide change?
No, ma'am.
1 second. Okay. So you get your amorphous expansive alkali silicate gel when alkali reacts with. Okay, so when you have such expansive gel formation, that is going to destroy your aggregate integrity and thus the bond between your aggregate and cement. And further, this swelling of by of water, so that is going to cause stresses locally due to its expansive nature because it absorbs for the moisture and then gels and liquefaction of alkali silicate gel by further inhibition of water that will lead to cracks. So expels liquid gel through the cracks. So these are general types of aggregates that has silicate based. Here you have examples. So if you have alkali silica glass and opal based and weathered quartzite, all those things, or silica based. So here you can see the time to obvious distress. Basically, that represents the reaction that the time to take significant reactions to cause damages. Reaction with the alkalis present in your cement. So now let's look at what are the ways that governs the entry of aggressive chemicals into the concrete. The first thing is permeability, force, so govern volumes, and again that depends on the water cement ratio that you use in your concrete. So low water cement ratio and extended curing lowers permeability. So as I said, if you have a prolonged duration, that will help you to reduce the pores because you are preventing the moisture loss from concrete matrix. So for that, curing plays a major role to achieve a durable concrete. So when you cure it for longer durations, or when you do cure the concrete adequately, you can reduce the amount of pores and lower the permeability of concrete. And additional mineral admixtures will be helpful to reduce the permeability because mineral admixtures plays two roles. One, it acts as a pozzonic material to provide additional CSH, which can fill the ports that is there in the concrete. In addition to that, certain mineral admixtures, due to its less fineness comparing to cement, particles, it can act as a filler and that will help you to reduce the permeability. Due to more CSS formation and the act of being a filler, you can reduce the permeability, right? And then diffusion of ions and gases through the empty pores and pore solution in saturated pores. So again, this plays a role. This is governed by the water cement ratio that you use and then curing conditions. Okay. So when you have less that has a better control in preventing any diffusion ions, that basically chlorides or carbon dioxide or any other or ions in the form of gases. And if you have crack in your concrete surface, then that will also lead path for water or other aggressive substance to enter into your concrete. These are some ways through which your aggressive chemicals can enter into the concrete and further the damages the concrete by reacting with. So those are certain things that happens chemically when your concrete is deteriorating due to chemical reaction. Now let's look at deterioration due to physical effect. That means due to these atmospheric conditions and other surface conditions, you may experience such physical damage in your structure. So we have these damage conditions based on these physical effects. So first one is freeze thaw effect or frost attack. So this is predominant when your concrete is in cold weather region, and fire damages when your concrete is exposed to significant high temperature, then your concrete will be damaged due to the heat that penetrated into the concrete and slowly that deteriorates the inner layers and disintegrates the bond between aggregate and cement paste. And then thermal cycle. So again, this depends on the temperature conditions. Your temperature may increase and decrease depending on the location where it is constructed. So those thermal cycles also has tendency to influence the performance of concrete. And shrinkage stresses. So shrinkage stresses is nothing but you, like I have mentioned in so many lectures, that when you have large surface area, when that is exposed to atmospheric conditions, water from the concrete will try to escape or evaporate due to its temperature and relative humidity. So in that case, the movement of moisture will be restricted in the concrete. So that movement of moisture restriction will lead to stress induced or localized stress. So certain times the water in the surface layer will be evaporated because there will not be any restriction to the water movement. But further, once the moisture from the surface is evaporated, then it goes into the concrete layer and then that pulls out the water from the inner layer. So when the water tries to escape from the inner layer, there it may experience restriction for its movement and that induces stresses. Okay. Let's look at frost attack. So this is predominant when the temperature of concrete drops below 0 degrees Celsius. So in that case, water will not get immediately freeze and especially not all the water that freeze when your temperature falls below 0 degrees Celsius. That depends on the pore size. So first, when water in the smaller pore will need a lower temperature to freeze. So for example, if you have water in two different pores, okay, so the water in the smaller pores need much lower temperature to freeze comparing to the water in the larger pore. Say for example, here water in 10 nanometer pore will not freeze until the temperature falls below minus 5 degrees Celsius. Whereas if the pore size reduces further, here you can see when the pore size becomes 3.5 nanometer, there the water will not get freeze until the temperature falls below minus 20 degrees Celsius. So if it is a gel water, then the pore size gets reduced further, decreased further, and correspondingly the temperature required to freeze will also reduce. So this indicates that basically not all the water gets freeze when your temperature falls below 0 degrees Celsius. So you will have the cyclic freezing conditions. So as the water freezes, it dilates and compresses the remaining water. So that induces pressure in its surrounding. So the pressure is relieved if water diffuses to open pores or open voids. If you have voids and if the water gets freeze, that basically the pressure is relieved by occupying the surrounding pores. If there are no voids, then the pressure will be built up and that will induce stress concentration at that point. And once the stress is significant, then that will lead to rupture. For this purpose, we purposefully introduce certain voids in air entrained concrete, which is to be placed in region where you experience this frost attack. So air entrained means you are purposefully introducing certain amount of air in your concrete so that when your water gets freeze, this air will be expelled and that space will be occupied by the water. So the pressure will be released there. The bubbles relieve the pressure and prevent damage from occurring. So instead of dilation, there is contraction on freezing, right? So these are certain examples of concrete surface which got damaged due to freeze-thaw cycle. So here you can see the cement paste got eroded and all the aggregate faces are visible on the surface due to freeze-thaw cycle. Because when you have the pressure is not relieved, especially at the surface layer level, so the expansion or the pressure buildup at that region will disintegrate the cement particles, cement mortar that is there, and you will observe such kind of eroded surface due to freeze-thaw. Now let's look at another major mechanism that affects the durability of concrete is corrosion. So this is significant when you have reinforced concrete system because corrosion is a mechanism which is going to affect significantly the steel than the concrete. Basically, this process is the electrochemical process which involves the formation of cathode and anode with electric current flowing in a loop between these two. And basically, when you have steel that becomes an anode, and then the steel basically made of your iron particles, ions. So that iron atom oxidized and that releases some amount of ions, Fe2 plus, and this will get dissolved in the surrounding solution. So in this case, in concrete, and at a certain distance, cathodic reaction occurs with the consumption of electrons and formation of hydroxide. For this reaction to occur, you should have both water and oxygen. And this formation of cathode and anode, the current flow between this cathode and anode occurs through aqueous solution present in the pores of the surrounding concrete. So your concrete will act as an electrode. So here you can see the process clearly. So you have your steel embedded in concrete, and you have the concrete surrounding it. So when you have certain amount of oxygen and moisture at the level of steel, at that point becomes as an anode. So there you can see this is the original shape of your steel. When it becomes anode, it will start releasing certain amount of Fe2 plus ion, and this will be conducted through this concrete path with the aqueous medium, and here this Fe2 plus will be moved towards the cathode point. The cathode will also be the region of steel only, but that is the region where you have oxygen and moisture in contact. So this oxygen and moisture reacts and that releases certain amount of OH minus ions. So this anode releases Fe2 plus ion, this cathode releases OH minus ion. These two reacts and forms the ferric oxide layer. So ferric oxide layer is your corrosion product. So this chemical reaction and charge movements leads to this corrosion process. So this depends on you can see here electrons flow from here this from anode to cathode. So this kind of leads to the battery cell formation where you have continuous flow of electrons from anode to cathode. So for this flow to occur, your pores will be the path. So this electron flows through your pores. So that basically depends on the resistivity of your concrete. Resistivity in the sense how well your concrete can allow this current flow. Fine. That depends on the force that is there in the concrete. So the parameters that can control the corrosion rate. Corrosion rate means how fast the corrosion process can occur. So the rate can be slow or it can be higher depending on the type of concrete that is there. So which is a function of resistivity and diffusivity of your oxygen. So for both these things, so this is a function of the porosity of your concrete. So the process is you have Fe2 plus ion released from your anode and that reacts with the OH minus ions released from cathode in the pore solution and that leads to this iron oxide rust formation, right? The corrosion of steel and concrete results in expansion created by the rust because you are losing certain ions from the anode and that reacts with the OH minus ion from cathode that forms rust particles. Okay, so these rust particles then that will try to occupy the spaces available surrounding to the or at the interface between steel and concrete. So once all the pores are filled by this rust product, then with the further formation of rust particles will lead to significant expansive stresses and further that expansive stresses lead to cracking and if the stress is too significant then that cracking will lead to spalling of concrete. That means the covercrete that is outside your steel reinforcement will be fall. That means you will see the concrete will fall off and then you can see the reinforcement visibly due to falling of concrete. So generally the rust has a tendency to induce about 2 to 6 volume of your steel. So when you have something formed about 2 to 6 time volume of the steel that is lost, then the expansive stresses is going to be significant. And this will also result in reduction of the cross section of the steel bar. That means when you lose iron Fe2 plus ion from steel, your cross section will be reduced. That was represented here. You can see this portion is reduced due to the release of Fe2 plus ion. When this corrosion process continues, this reduction in this area will become significant and this will be localized and over the time this will occur along the length of your steel rebar. So generally the concrete that is there has a tendency to protect your steel due to its pH level. So you will have protection layer called the passivation layer. Protection layer called passivation layer, which helps that protects your steel from corrosion. So if you want to protect your steel not to corrode, then you can increase the pH level of your concrete. So when pH level less than 11 or in case of carbon induced corrosion, when this drops less than 9, then your corrosion reaction will be high. So when it drops below 11, your passivation layer will get damaged. So the stability of passivation layer will be reduced when the pH is dropped. So to maintain the passivated state or to have a stable passivation layer, your pH of concrete should always high. It should range in the level of about 11 to 13. So basically when your concrete is in highly alkaline nature, this passivation layer will be protected. So when the alkalinity reduces and then when it becomes acidic, then the stability passivation layer will be destroyed. So to protect your steel, you should have high pH of concrete to maintain the steel passivation. This leads to spontaneous formation of stable protective iron oxide film. So this basic passivation layer is kind of iron oxide film only. So when the corrosion occurs, so initial stage of corrosion, it forms a thin layer on the steel surface. That means when you have steel manufactured and when the steel is brought out of unit and when it is exposed to atmospheric condition, so the bare steel reacts with air and it forms some passive thin rust layer on its surface before we place the rebar in concrete itself. That is what we call as protective iron oxide film around the steel. So the corrosion will occur only when this condition changes and the pH drops. So depassivation of steel reinforcement can occur when your pH value is reduced. So how can that happen? When chloride ion present in the concrete, for example, say when you have more than 0.2 to 0.4% of by weight of cement, even though the pH is high, then this will destroy your protecting layer. That is passivation layer will be destroyed. This depassivation of the steel will occur when the chloride content is high at the steel concrete interface. Another way is when you have calcium hydroxide, which is the hydration product. When that reacts with carbon dioxide and when that has been carbonated by the penetrating carbon dioxide, then the pH reduces. So in that case, when pH becomes lower than you will observe such kind of depassivation of steel reinforcement. One thing to be noted is for corrosion to occur, it is always mandatory to have moisture and oxygen. If you do not have moisture, then the reaction will not take place. And oxygen is mandatory, but you cannot avoid your structure not to have oxygen. So this condition is an ideal condition for corrosion to occur, and most often we cannot avoid these things so that we can prevent our structure from corrosion. So most often structure will be subjected to moisture and oxygen. So in that case, if that increase and that is going to corrode your steel surface. So one way of preventing it, instead of preventing, what we can do is we can delay it. In that case, your concrete should be less porous and there should not be any crack. On the other hand, if your concrete has highly porous and if you have cracks on it, then that will lead to increase of water and oxygen and promote the corrosion. So these are certain cracks you can observe in the structural members that can be due to shrinkage or due to alkali aggregate reaction or due to loading conditions and due to cracking. So here you can see when you have cracks at the end of your support, so almost your support there will be shear crack because there this is the region where you have your shear critical. Whereas if you have such cracks at the middle of your portion, especially this is the flexural member, so there you will have tension induced and that tension will lead to flexural cracking. Okay, so that depends on the member and the applied loading condition. So here this column, this B, basically here it represents the column member. So this axial column will lead to compressive crack. And here you can see tension bending crack for this member. And on the surface, you can see lot of surface shrinkage. So here this represents E. So E basically plastic shrinkage. D, E and F is a plastic shrinkage. Plastic shrinkage means once you place the fresh concrete on the surface and when you expose this fresh concrete to the atmospheric condition due to temperature and relative humidity, you will have significant moisture loss and that will lead to such plastic shrinkage formation. And because of that, you may have some plastic settlement also if your base here that gets settled. So here you can see plastic settlement cracks. And there are cracks that could form due to thermal contraction that depends due to increase of temperature. temperature, your member tends to contract, and when the temperature reduces, your member tends to expand. So such cyclic variation in temperature will lead to newer or concrete structure. And for these all cracks, here is one combinations and the primary causes and the secondary causes that could affect the formation of such cracking, and at what time you can observe such kind of cracking. So if it is a plastic settlement based, so that could be, you can see in the arching, or when you have change of depth, or when you have over reinforcement provided. In such cases, you can observe this type of plastic settlement. So this is more common in where when you have deep sections, you will be over reinforced your member, and top of columns and slabs. So what is the reason for this? Excessive bleeding of water may lead to such plastic settlement. And the secondary reason will be rapid early drying conditions. When you expose your fresh concrete to the atmospheric conditions, due to high temperature, your concrete may dry rapidly. So in that case, you can observe this kind of cracks within 10 minutes to 3 hours of concrete placement. So plastic shrinkage is depending on the location. Again, this depends on the bleeding conditions or moisture loss. So rapid early drying and it plus steel near surface. So this depends on the rate of bleeding, and this can be controlled by improving early curing. So when you provide water curing conditions, you are going to prevent the moisture loss from the concrete. So in such cases, you are preventing moisture loss from the concrete will help you to prevent plastic shrinkage, because moisture from the curing water will be lost, not from the concrete. So this will help you to prevent fresh or plastic shrinkages at the early stages. Suppose if curing is not done adequately, then moisture will be lost from your concrete, and that will lead to plastic shrinkage cracks. So generally, you will observe such kind of cracks within 30 minutes to 6 hours of concrete placement. Similarly, when you have early thermal contraction, so where this will be the case where you have thick walls and thick slabs. So in that case, the temperature variation will be significantly high, different comparing to your inner region of your member to the outer surface of concrete. So excessive heat generation, because the inner portion, for example, if you have a thick member like this side will be exposed to atmospheric condition, and this side will be exposed to atmospheric condition. Whereas the inner region, their hydration process will be continuing, and such hydration process will lead to excessive heat generation. So such excessive heat generation here and different uh, heating conditions or temperature condition at the outer surface will lead to early thermal contraction, because the water will try, this heat wave from here will try to dissipate to reach the outside to lower the temperature that is there at the core region. So rapid cooling and reducing such heat formation may be helpful to prevent such early thermal contraction. And long-term drying shrinkage, again, this is you can observe regions like thin slab and walls, and this may lead to inefficient joints, and this will result due to insufficient curing. And when you reduce water content and improve the curing conditions, you can prevent such long-term drying shrinkages and this cracks. So since these are long-term drying shrinkage, this will take several weeks or months to occur. And other type of damage mechanism is that crazing and corrosion of aggregate and alkali aggregate reaction. So alkali aggregate reaction we looked at when your aggregate reactive aggregate reacts with alkali and water, that will lead to expansive gel formation, and that expansive gel affects the durability of concrete. So for this to occur, of course, you need to have damp location where moisture will get enter, and your reactive aggregate has cement content. Those are the primary source for this reaction. So if you eliminate any one of these causes, you can prevent this reaction. And generally, the significance of this reaction will be observed depending on the type of aggregates that is there. So certain aggregates are more reactive in nature. Maybe you can start observing the cracks within few years, and certain aggregates react slower. So maybe after 5 years or 10 years, you will observe such cracking due to alkali aggregate reaction. And column corrosion of reinforcement, and this depends on the locations, mainly where you have steel reinforcement. So most of our columns and beams will have steel reinforcement to take care of tensile capacity of the member. In such cases, if you do not provide adequate cover kit, if the cover kit is smaller, then and the quality of cover kit is not good, moisture can easily reach the steel surface. So if you increase the cover depth, then it will take long time to reach your steel surface. And if the quality of cover kit is too good, that is, if the pores are very less and the connectivity of pores are very less, then the foreign elements, the chlorides or carbon dioxide, that cannot reach the steel surface. So the reaction will take place when the chlorides or carbon dioxide, when water, all those things, when it reaches the steel surface, that is at the interface between the steel and concrete, then only this corrosion becomes significant. So and that you should have adequate cover, and you should have a good quality cover kit. If you do not have adequate cover and good quality cover kit, then within 2 years or more than 2 years, you can start observing damages due to corrosion. And tracing, and this depends on the finishing of your concrete. So mostly depends on the formwork and floated concrete structure. So this you can predominantly see where the concrete members are visible to the outer conditions. So facies, concrete or slabs. So impermeability of impermeable formwork and over traveling will lead to such tracing. So another reason is rich mixes. Your concrete will be good, but poor curing may lead to formation of weak cement particles on the surface, and that will lead to this kind of improving curing and proper finishing on the concrete. So if not taken carefully, then you may see such damages in 1 to 2 of your construction or placement of concrete. So these are examples where you have a concrete cover kit has fallen due to expansive stresses induced by the rust products formed by corrosion. So you can see the concrete has fallen and the rebars are exposed. Corroded or rusted rebars are exposed. And this you have longitudinal reinforcement here, and when the reinforcement is corroded, and you can see the surrounding concrete the cover kit has fallen, and the way you have significant expansive stresses that resulted in longitudinal crack. So these are examples of damage from carbonation. So when you have carbonation, your pH will be lowered significantly, and that lowered pH will result in corrosion of reinforcement. And this shows the issue in the construction joint as a common trouble, because when you are casting at different times, so you should ensure that your construction joints, so the placement of previous day concreting and today's concrete should be done properly. So the construction joint should be taken care so that it doesn't have any voids or damages. So overall, to conclude, when you have concrete, your permeability or pores that is there in the concrete affects your performance or the durability performance. So due to cracks and pores, so the permeability may lead to chloride ingress, or that may lead to oxygen ingress, and sometimes salt water penetration will be there. If carbon dioxide, some gaseous element that get entered in the concrete, that will lead to carbonation. And if moisture is more, then that will lead to water saturation. And depending on the cement type that you use, the alkali that is present in your cement, that will influence the performance. And then the type of aggregates that you use to prepare your concrete, that affects the performance. If it is a silica based aggregate, that is going to induce alkali silica reaction. If it is carbonate based aggregates, that will lead to alkali carbonate reaction. And sulfate attack, if you have sulfate ingress, then that will lead to sulfate attack. So when you have these combinations, when carbonations or oxygen, chloride, sulfur, the penetration gets entered into it, then corrosion will be the major mechanism. When you have water, alkali, silica aggregate in reaction, then you will observe alkali aggregate reaction in your concrete. When you have just water alone, that will lead to leaching by reacting with calcium hydroxide. When you have just sulfate attack alone, that will lead to concrete expansion and then further disintegration of the concrete by affecting the bond between aggregate and cement. Eventually, those will lead to cracking and strength loss. So these are the things that basically governs the durability performance of your right. In the next class, I will just talk about shrinkage and creep. With that, the durability chapter will be over. So we will have one more class. You can go through the type. I will just briefly give an intro about the type of aggregates that we use, and then I will make a group for the assignment, final assignment. Yeah, that's it. So if you have any queries in this module, we can discuss. We can have some time for the discussion. Anything to discuss?
No.
Yes.
Do we have one more class?
Sorry.
Do we have one more class now?
One more class means? I did not get. We have class on Thursday and Friday, right?
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay, go through these lectures, and if you have any doubts to clarify, we can have it in the next class. Fine.
Okay.